Maybe they saw that.
You surprised it and it surprised.
Morning, everyone.
It took off.
Morning, everyone. We're live. Good morning. It is Tuesday, May 5th, 2026 at about 11:23. And this is the House Republican Caucus. Just a few things from this morning's leadership meeting. You heard the resolution of former Rep. Steve Carr. Several of us served when he was here. Pretty good legislation from Brandon, Vermont. We heard Wooden's amendments, withdrawing one, hopefully the committee won favorably. And one, hopefully they'll be working on today. So that's great news. As far as ending date for the session, still don't know. She's still working on, the speaker's still trying for May 15th, but my sense is it probably will go one extra week. What she's envisioning for next week in order to fill time that I know some committees are winding down, don't have a lot of work to do, is to, her thought maybe is to have caucuses of the whole next week on particular items that affect, the ending of the session. But she's really not sure. She just kind of threw that out this morning. But really, she's working hard. She still would like to get out of here May 15th. But my understanding is the Senate is working to pass out an ed bill by this Friday. So if that happens, then it has to go through the machinations in the Senate and then move over here and then probably have a committee of conference, which means it will be an additional week on top of May 15th ending. So that's what I would do. Plan on an extra week at least being here. That's all I think we had from this morning.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm just going to go quickly over just some notice ones that are, we'll talk about the other ones later on today, but there are some on the second page of the House calendar today. Have they gone through your committees? That's what I'm asking right now. Have you had those because they're Senate proposals of amendment? Have you voted them out or are you going to be looking at those today? So I'm going to start with the approval of the amendment to that's favorable. So that came out of House. So that one's okay. Senate proposal of amendment. These are the Senate proposals. H46, which is the Rare Disease Advisory Council. Is that in healthcare? Is that in?
Oh, that's mine.
Human Services?
There's no money like that. Okay.
Is that in Human Services?
Mhm.
Yes. So have you done that one? Or are you
Yes.
going to do that one today?
Did
you vote on it?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay,
we
so
voted on it.
do you remember what the vote was?
All of us.
Okay, so it's an 11.
I mean, I can't remember. We voted on that a while ago, but pretty positive. I did.
It's Erica?
No.
Okay, and then there's H582, which is Adult Protective Services. Is that in Human Services as well? Or health? Did you deal with that one in committee?
Not here? Yeah, that went well too.
Okay. And then there is the H778, which is dam safety. There's a Senate proposal of amendment. I believe it says environment. Oh, so you're discussing this afternoon, possible vote out for tomorrow. Okay. And then the last one is the yield bill. So have you looked at that?
We're looking at that this afternoon.
Okay, so looking at that this afternoon, my understanding of the yield bill is they added, we passed it out with 50 million. Reduction, the governor wanted 105. We passed additional monies to buy down the 12% to 7%. Understanding is the Senate added an additional 50 million-ish to bring it down to about 4%. So, but they also added one other thing in there with.
Spent 4 million on the Excess spending.
excess spending threshold, which,
Well, there's a renter's credit that there's including $4 million.
okay,
So
Renter's credit.
to draw down, they're looking at the 100.9.
okay.
What's the renter?
I'm sorry?
What is the renter's credit?
It's an amount that goes to folks that rent.
Don't we already do that for the homeless bill and all the other bills?
They have a renter credit now, but it's just an additional amount that's gonna go to renter's credit.
Probably factoring in the increase of property taxes are affecting their rents because their rents increase because the property taxes increase. So the landlord passes that expense, a part of it onto the renter. So this will help the renters with the one time only. And that's what the Senate passed out. So,
The Senate included the excess spending threshold as well.
yes,
It-
or lack thereof. Is there an excess spending threshold?
Yes,
Okay, so they, if,
now at 118%, and the Senate proposal is to lower it to 112,
so it
which
does
means it will
decrease.
affect more school districts.
Okay,
More or less.
okay. Anything else on that, Neil? Yes,
Yeah, the renter's credit. I'm just wondering what kind of, relief a renter will get. Will it be $25? Will it be $1,000 or?
Yeah.
I don't know that yet.
they're gonna do it. Yeah. Are there any other bills that are on the horizon? Not that the horizon is quickly approaching, but Lynn,
I just want to go back to the renter's rebate. That's been around since Act 60, so for 20-something years, that was a part of Act 60. It gave, every landlord has to file a paper to show that they will get for their renter. And then the renter gets money back. And we also have, of course,
that's a landlord certificate of rent
Yeah.
pay that they give to the renter every year and they file that with their income tax. So this, I'm assuming that
additional
this,
money on top
this
of
will
that
be-
is the property tax credit is coming.
Yeah. yes. So, I know that anyone else, but
Yeah, Smallville, the pre-K and the NEK choice school districts called pre-kindergarten education in geographically isolated areas. We just had to keep delaying the vote, one thing or another, so they were gonna vote that today. I'll be the presenter. Essentially, because right now, parents can send their children to pre-K either in a private provider or a public school provider. NEK choice has no schools, there aren't any. So that's not an option. There aren't a lot of private providers. Currently, K through 12 students are publicly tuitioned. Many of them go to New Hampshire, because it's the closest, most convenient school. So this just basically adds pre-K to those that can be tuitioned across the river to a public school in New Hampshire. The biggest question, I guess, was why not private providers? Because you can do private providers in Vermont. While under Act 73, you can only tuition to public schools now out of state. And they testified they have the capacity. So if they're sending their older kids to Lancaster, for example, it makes sense just to send their pre-K here too. So should be pretty straightforward.
Mary,
193, which is the forensic facilities.
yes.
Is in 4 committees: human services, healthcare, institutions and correction, and judiciary. We're supposed to be working on it more this week and hopefully out by the end of the week.
Have you worked on that, Paul? Something share.
I'm sorry, I was texting.
Forensic.
Yeah. We're working on sections 1 through 4. I'm not sure what section, I don't remember what sections corrections has, but and we're just gonna be working on our sections. We're not really gonna have an opinion from on what corrections has done or is doing and
Human services also has a big part of it.
we have possession of the bill.
Healthcare. Healthcare hasn't. You have possession right now of the bill. It's hanging on your wall.
Yep.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure you do, we're the only state in the country without a forensic facility.
So there's a
I
need.
don't
there.
think, I think overall, it's gonna be good. There's gonna be pieces of it people don't like. You know, it's still to be determined who's gonna run the program. And no matter who runs the program, there's gonna be people that aren't gonna be happy with that. But like Mary said, we're the only state that hasn't got one. And I really think we need to forward whatever bill comes out. There's been a lot of work done on it, you know, trying to make people happy. And it's not a done deal. It doesn't mean just because we pass this bill out, this is exactly what it's going to be. There's still a lot of rulemaking and study groups that are going to go into it to finalize everything. But the way it stands right now, I'm certainly going to support what's coming up.
Quite honestly, we've studied it enough for the last
Yep.
number of years to get to down the
Yep.
road. It's time to be.
Correct.
And
Brenda.
even though it's a pricey bill, human lives we're thinking of. Somebody could get put back on the street, which we did hear testimony, and her daughter was killed. So sometimes you have to, in my case, that's very frugal, overlook the money when it's human life involved. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that life isn't worth money, somebody's life.
Yeah, along those lines, one big thing that I've talked about in committee a lot is the public safety end of it. And to me, that's number one.
Yeah.
And number two is, maybe number three or number four, that mean, yeah, these people they have mental health issues and they're gonna get whatever treatment they need, I guess, but the first thing is the public safety, and the facility needs to be secure, so.
Mike.
Just out of government operations, military affairs, we're working 3-4 charters, because we can do charters at the bitter end, as you all know. And then we're working a hemp bill, that's S2. 323, excuse me, yep, but we're just, I can take a straw poll on that, St. Richard's Committee. And then we're working.
What is that one?
I'm sorry.
323. What is 320? S 320?
I'll
You're
be
going
more,
over,
it's
okay.
their bill, we're just straw polling it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then S278 miscellaneous cannabis for the year. We're taking more, we'll probably be taking testimony through the end of the week on that one. And then S64, that's the optometry bill, whether to expand
Oh, yeah.
via OPR, the ability for them to do greater levels of procedures. Obviously, that one's gonna push pull between ophthalmologists and optometrists, but we'll see how it goes.
So that was in healthcare and it was moved to Caucus.
So we're just, it's one of those multiple committees are looking at it.
Okay. As far as, transportation, we have the DMV bill still, and that should get voted out tomorrow. Let's see, Chris, I mean, do you have anything to say about
Right, there's a couple of loose ends, I don't know if we're gonna tie them up, but one has to do with the title of abandoned vehicle. And the other one is the noise section of that.
You also have the rail trail people tomorrow night, but most important thing that you will deal with all year. All by any.
I really look forward to that.
Memorial Valley Rail Trail?
No, the BB.
Or the BB Pond?
Yes.
Yes, yes, we've heard from that several times.
I'm sorry. It's okay.
Did you have anything to add to the DMV? No.
No, just that, when you're ready to hear what's going on.
Okay, yeah. So, and we'll listen to Richard Nelson on ag.
We're working through Senate's, S323, which is a miscellaneous bill. that covers everything under Mars. And we're gonna strike some sections, because the other side doesn't like them. They're trying to add some sections that your three Republicans and, the independent don't like, and that's on PFAS in, containers, which I'm gonna remind them we already passed a year ago. I don't know why he's trying to do it again. And the more you look into that, you know, they passed it for consumer products, right? Well, a lot of the chemicals in the world, the cleaners, acids, soaps, a lot of food product are shipped in those cage containers, HDPE, plastic totes. May or may not have PFAS in them. Stealing a line from Ken Wells, nobody knows. So that's could be problematic. And then there's the hemp portion of the bill, and that's because of the great battle with Kentucky, Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell protecting the bourbon industry, turned hemp into something that it's not. Before I realized that hemp can be turned into something that it's not. And so we passed that down to GovOps because they deal with the cannabis side of life. And we're just trying to come up with a compromise that protects all our hemp farmers in the state of Vermont as well, and protects the cannabis people that pay the big money for the big license. It's challenging. I think when we get it done, it'll be close to right. And then the Senate today just passed first or second reading 941. That was the bill that our chairman kept kicking down the road every day. That's municipal ag regulations in agriculture. Municipal regulations of agriculture. And that survived Burlington attempt at amendment to regulate it more. So that bill comes out, I think. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't concur with their changes to our bill, but remains to be seen. And next week, when things slow down, you're all looking for something to do, an hour and 25 minutes north of here, I can find rock for you to bet. I'll be out there.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else that's coming out of their committee in the next several days? No? Tony?
We're continuing to work on F-71, that's the
Yeah.
data privacy bill. If it passes and it's a form right now, it'll be the most restrictive bill in the nation. We're trying to, but we're still working through it. There's no private right of action, so that's a
good.
win. But we're still working through that. We took a lot of testimony this week and we'll be having a discussion. That may come out later in the week. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Hey, Tony, how about we make it those people that are trying to scam people, that we find them, drag them out of their house and.
We'll be happy to forward the bill to judicial after and they can take care of that.
Or that we pass a bill saying that you can't keep fishing, you know, sending you 500 phone calls a day or text messages saying, sign up for this. I just sick of it.
I know, you know, hey, all you gotta do is sign in line $321,000.
Okay. Okay. Deb?
I just had a question on the data. I don't know if this would be part of it, but I know like Ford Motor Company has some patents for your car to read your face and tell you that you're not capable of driving right now. And but I don't know if you've seen the commercials out there, they have like tornadoes coming and they're like, let's do some deep breathing exercise, and you know, all this kind of stuff.
I think I need that every day.
Well, I mean, that's all part of, that's all what's, part of what's in the bill. I mean, one of the probably the key points of debate right now among us is the data minimization part of it, which basically is a law that states that the law would state that a company can only take data that is necessary to complete the transaction, which is good in some ways until you're trying to get a movie on Netflix.
Right.
Because now you sign up and it's like, well, I'm sorry, we can't ask you what you like for movies. So you're on your own until, eventually they, they'll get data, but, that's kind of the crux of at what point, what is necessary data? That's kind of where we're at with it. The Chamber of Commerce, obviously wants less restriction. DPERG and organizations like that want more restrictions, so that's.
What are the issues that make it, the toughest law in the nation? So this was,
It's most
So,
restrictive.
so most of the laws in the nation do what's called an opt-in. So what they'll say is, hey, we're gonna be collecting some data on you. Here's what we're gonna collect. Do you want to allow this? We're not gonna give them that choice. We're going to tell the companies.
The consumer has to give their consent for specific data. Yeah.
Right, but then there's other data which they can't collect, whether you give consent or not. Like I said, the whole concept on the Netflix, if maybe you want to tell them the kind of movies you like. Well, that's not necessary to complete the transaction. So, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's a gray area. But, the businesses are going to err on the side of caution. And they're going to say, we're just not going to collect it. So that's where it's, we're telling businesses what data they can and can't collect. Versus other areas, they're a little more loose on that. And they're saying, well, yes, this data is sensitive. Yes, we don't need this data necessarily to complete the transaction. But if you give it, it'll help your user experience.
So my understanding, I think some of the language the chamber doesn't like. So,
Correct.
yes. So, which is your businesses throughout the state. So, correct.
This bill came out of the Senate unanimous, right?
Yes.
Correct.
It was 80 pages, now it's about 40.
I haven't seen the most recent draft.
Yeah, it looks like it's down to 40 pages.
Have you changed it as a strike off from the Senate's version?
I'm pretty sure we did a strike all because we did make a fair amount of changes. Interestingly enough, the Senate, the bill that was passed out of Senate unanimously is supported by the chamber.
Yeah.
It's all the additional things that we put in that they're having.
So you've made it more restrictive.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Mark.
Yeah, this is just to Representative Steady's question in regards to the rental. I went to the joint fiscal. No, and it expands the Vermont rental credit by increasing the maximum credit amount to $3,250 and increasing the amount that the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development fair market rent that is used to calculate that, to credit that to 12.5%. That helps. But it's just an adjustment.
Yes.
The other thing while we're here, though, I mean, I have some concerns about, there's a provision that they included. It was initially in 220. It's the Senate's version to try to reduce spending or hold the spending to a 2-year. It's in regards to the excess spending adjustment. And again, the excess spending adjustment impacts education tax rates so that district spending above it are taxed doubly on the excess spending amount. Under current law, voters approve bond payments toward principal and interest for bonds approved prior to July 1st, 2024, and are excluded from the education spending for the purpose of calculating that excess spending. Section 2 of this, though, would repeal that deadline so that all bond payments would be excluded from education spending for the excess spending calculations, regardless of when the bonds were approved. And my concern there is the last word in the Joint Fiscal Office paragraph here is, this will result in school districts above the excess spending threshold not receiving a double tax penalty for bond payments, which absent any other changes in the policy would result in other school districts' tax rates increasing to make up for the lack of that penalty. So that's a concern for me.
Yeah. Section. Concerns about resting.
Okay, anything else? Report here, Marty.
Just a reminder that the conference committee has been established for the budgets. So there's 3 members for the Senate, 3 members for the House, and I'm on the House side. We met once last week just to say hello and look at a bunch of paperwork, and we're gonna get obviously even more paperwork. But
You have a
we're kind of waiting to see what happens with transportation and the yield bill and, you know, obviously education and things like that. We can totally tie things up because there's money in there from the Senate side for bills that have not yet passed, but they assume they might. So we kind of need to know how all that sort of stuff.
Right, so do you
If
have?
you have any particular concerns, I mean, I know any of you voted against the budget, whether it was because it was too much money or you didn't like particular things in it, or you were trying to, you know, endorse the governor's idea, holding off on the budget until we knew about education, whatever your motives were. If you have questions about specific items, please come to me and I'll try to explain to you what the House's position is and the Senate's position is and what possible compromises there might be. Okay.
So do you have a schedule of when the committee of conference may be meeting or no?
We're gonna meet on Wednesday and then we're gonna see how everything else is kind of settled out there. And in the meantime, each of us on, at least on the House side, are investigating certain areas where we know there are differences. To try to get enough background to be able to understand how we might resolve. So,
Okay.
And I'll just add, we haven't gotten the side-by-side report yet either.
right, we don't have that.
We
Oh, you don't have that
yet.
yet? That's
They're working
good.
on it, JFO's working.
Okay, and I think that's important.
That's
People
important.
to see, yeah, okay. Brenda,
I just want to throw this out there. The Human Services Committee had a bill, H 938, that was 82 million to house the homeless. And then all these nonprofits are in 2027 that do the same work. When we're already paying 82 million, and they want hundreds of thousands, and I think that should be in there. That the governor approved 82 million, all the nonprofits should get it. If they open a nonprofit, they find a way to fund it. So I just wanted that out there.
Many of them are part of that 82 million.
No, they aren't. I know who I'm talking about.
Well, maybe you're maybe not specific.
They're additional.
anyone else? No, okay. So thank you very